to another episode of Mind Over Matter, where we explore the power of mind, mindset, and also personal growth to create a balanced and fulfilling life. Today, we have an incredible conversation and also an incredible guest who has dedicated her life to helping people reclaim their health, energy, and joy. Listeners, meet Sal Holden. She's a kinesiologist, intuitive life coach, speaker, and also number one Amazon best-selling author of Thrive and a Joyful Life. With over 14 years of experience, she has empowered thousands of women internationally to overcome burnout and build a life they truly love. And in fact, her personal journey of transformation, navigating through the loss of her marriage, the passing of her mother, and her battle with burnout, has given her unique insights and that strength into how our mind and mindset can be our greatest tools in overcoming adversities. And in today's episode of Mind Over Matter, we'll be diving into how the power of mindset can help in managing burnout, listeners. So, Sal's personal journey, we'll also talk about that, and then practical strategies to help you shift from exhaustion to empowerment. So, with that, Sal, welcome to the show. And as always, it's an absolute pleasure having you with us.
Thank you so much, Sana. It's so wonderful to be here with everyone.
Okay. Sad. So when we talk about burnout, there are so many meanings, so many different, maybe misconceptions and thoughts about it, and it has now become a kind of, you know, one of the most triggering factors beyond chronic illnesses or something. And the scariest part is we often don't realize that we are on the verge of having burnout and we are going through it. So, can you share how mindset plays a crucial role in preventing and managing burnout?
Absolutely, Sana. I think you're absolutely spot on with that was certainly my situation in terms of not actually realizing certainly how close I was to burnout, and then not knowing that until I was fully in the thick of it. So, with mindset, like all of us know, what we think about, what we tell ourselves is essentially what we end up doing. And there's so much when it comes to burnout, it can be our mindset can be our biggest enemy or thing that pulls us back and keeps us stuck, or we can really, really use it in a very powerful and focused way. And it definitely does take a lot of strength in that focus because our mind is absolutely hardwired to protect our body and to keep us safe. So when we become so physically compromised in a situation such as burnout and we're so exhausted and tired, the more tired and exhausted we are, the more our mind is hooked into what's going to hurt me and what's going to harm me. So it becomes hyper vigilant to our world around us. And this is where that focus and really understanding the power of mindset is so incredibly important when it comes to actually using the power of the mind to focus on what it is that we do want and uh, being able to overcome our inner critic to be able to support our healing. Otherwise, it continues to drive more and more stress. And one of my mentors said to me at the time is, we can continue to burn out just lying on the couch if we continue to think the stressful thoughts.
True, true, true. Now, I have personally faced it. It could be because when I got to know about the symptoms or the signs of burnout, I thought, okay, could be because 3 4 years back I was completely uh, obsessed with my work. I was having just 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I'll be very honest. I
Oh, wow. Yeah.
to work till like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and then again wake up at 8. And this was, when we all had work from home, the
Mm.
infamous days of, post pandemic or during pandemic. So it was kind of, no boundaries, nothing. My laptop was just, it was opened all the time. It never went into the power of mode or even sleep mode. It was all the time opened. I had very erratic schedules of food. I never got to spend time with my family at that time. And I thought, okay, I have an aim in my mind. I need to achieve that. Uh, it was basically I was slated for promotion, so I was hell bent on to achieve that, and I got it as well. But in the next 1 year, the signs kind of they started to show. um, I had trouble in sleeping. I had trouble in doing my daily activities. I felt grudgy. I was short tempered, and I never got on time from that. Never woke. So I used to feel like, why am I going to office? Why am I going to work? This is not for me. I just don't want anything. And there was another very very scary sign for me that somehow I mm, never liked to talk to people or sit in the cafeteria, have lunch or coffee with them even.
The withdrawal, the social withdrawal,
It was
it's such a huge red flag. Yeah.
such a huge thing. I mean, I was so scared. Right now, I'm still trying to, it's a work in progress, but I'm feeling better because I've taken a time off. I'm concentrating on my sleep, my, eating, and I'm, spending time with my family members.
Mm.
It's kind of, in line. It's getting in balance, but that time it was really, really tough for me. So it's very serious, and I think it should be taken seriously.
Oh, it can have such an impact. I know for me, when I went through burnout and I was a single mum and single income provider for our family. So it was terrifying to find out that I couldn't really function for more than 2 hours a day. And it was just like absolute, absolute, absolute priorities. And everything else just had to be cut out at that particular time. And, but yeah, no, I can really appreciate that too, Sana. Like, yeah, you sound like you've been on quite the journey with burnout as well.
That's true. And yeah, I mean, although, I shared my journey, but I think I'll give you the platform. Your personal story is incredibly inspiring. Uh, you know, a single mom, a single source of income. It's a different ballgame altogether. What was that moment that made you realize you needed to change your mindset and approach to life?
I think it was, like, being flat on the floor and realizing that I'd always been able to rally my energy in the past whenever there was an emergency or whenever, I might have been flat or I might have been feeling tired, and, I was just always able to rally my energy and this event, just for a little bit of context for the listeners, I had prolonged chronic stress for a long period of time in my life, and then also had three acute events happen in the 1 week, which were all grief events. And essentially, it felt like it blew up my nervous system completely. And so, in that moment, it was just realizing that all of the pushing for success, the trying to finally, achieve enough so I could finally feel enough. That was essentially, I feel like, where the crux of where it was really coming from, as well as one of my favorite things that I heard about burnout was really, too much for too long, sorry, too much too fast or too little for too long. And so, too much too fast is the acute stresses and all of those pressures that come along with that. And then the too little for too long, too little sleep, too little taking care of our food, too little self care, all of those different aspects. And I think it's a really powerful reminder of how we can end up in that particular situation as well. And um, so, for me personally, like, really, I guess, like, understanding what was actually going on in that moment made me realize that I significantly had to change the way that I was thinking and the way that I was operating and to actually put limits in. I previously thought it was about everybody else's boundaries, like, I hadn't set boundaries with everyone else, and I realized it was actually myself that I needed to actually set the limits with the most in terms of my work hours and what I was willing to take on and the pressure that I was putting on myself, around things, and I think a lot of people that have that A-type personality, the relentless, push and growth and whilst that can be very empowering at times, we really need to check in on our own limits and what else is going on in our own life as well in terms of our capacity of everything that we're holding, both emotionally, mentally, physically, and our daily schedule as well. So, mm.
Well, I mean, that must have been such a difficult period for yourself. And I'm really, really, this is really inspiring, especially with your marriage and being a single mom, your mother's demise. I think, um, yeah, it must have been really difficult, but, you fought and, like a true warrior, you, um, you came out of it and now you're sharing the gift, the wisdom, especially to women out there. So that's really, really inspiring. Um, and many people, they don't realize how much our thoughts impact our physical health. It can be uh, self criticism, too much judging ourselves, um, too much receptive to opinions and validations, external validations. How do you see mindset affecting the body, especially in cases of burnout?
I absolutely, I think anything that we're thinking, if we're focused on something that is a negative thought or creating more of what we don't want. And I'm certainly not against negative emotions or anything. I think it's really important. All of those things are giving us information to be able to make greater decisions in our life with. However, when the more physically tired we are, the more the mind focuses on those fear-based thoughts and even enjoyable things for me, like going paddleboarding and things like that, that I would normally just enjoy. I found myself like very hooked into anxiety of, oh my gosh, is there sharks out there? Like, is there becoming like so hyper vigilant to everything that could go wrong? And in that moment, when we're focusing on the fear, body is producing so many more stress hormones, and the body prioritizes our survival over fertility. So, what that actually means is that the body will be, instead of producing adequate amounts of estrogen, particularly for women, but also for men, instead of the body prioritizing estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and all of our wonderful sex hormones that help us feel great and have energy and have clarity of mind and balance our emotions, the body is actually shuttling a lot of the precursors straight into adrenaline and cortisol. And over time, that creates so much inflammation within the body. And that inflammation can lead to poor cognitive function, poor memory. That can also lead to gut issues. So, a lot of inflammation within the gut, IBD, or inflammatory bowel disease. There's so many different factors of where that inflammation can hit, sore joints, muscles, aching, lethargy, and certainly impacts our mitochondrial function, which is basically where our energy is produced as well. So there's a very physical aspect to what we're thinking about, which is what we're visualizing. And when we're visualizing something, we have an image in our mind. And obviously our mind doesn't know whether that image is true or is real or not. And that's where really harnessing the power of our mind and focusing more on what do I want instead and how would I feel if that was already done or if this was already resolved, and also taking the action steps where possible without overwhelming ourselves, which can be a very tricky balance and a very fine line when we're in burnout. I often say to all of my clients and myself that less is more when we're implementing change, simply because it can become so overwhelming, even the thought of trying to have the energy to be able to create change. But definitely what we're thinking about, what we're focusing on, drives our emotional state, which is driving our biochemical state within the body, either more stress hormones or more oxytocin and more connection hormones and neurotransmitters as well. And so all of those things definitely play a massive role in how they're impacting our physical body.
True, true, true. And that's a lot of science, but I think uh, it's very, very much important to address, because it's not just like woo woo or something. There is a scientific approach to this. There is a scientific reason. That is why it has to be made aware of. Now, since we have talked about what exactly is burnout and what are the effects there, um, let's talk about how we can maybe prevent or manage, how we can overcome them. So, we all talk about mindfulness techniques, breathing, mindful breathing, journaling, gratitude practices. Like I have talked to so many guests, who are into high stress careers. They're lawyers, they are, in media, um, sales, and all. One common practice which I've found is gratitude. Every day in the morning, you're waking up, either, they express gratitude or they pray or something. That's completely according to them, that's individual, but expressing gratitude that, I have been gifted this day. I wake up every day. So many people, they don't get the opportunity to have another day in their life. So this is a gift to me. I have the resources available to me. So I should express gratitude. And so according to you, Sally, is all these techniques are uh, to be leveraged for everyone, or there a customized process, maybe based on their journeys, based on the effects of burnout? Can they be customized, maybe one technique which someone can select and then work on that? How does it work?
I think that's such a great question, and so many great examples of things that we can do to support ourselves and to increase our energy, be that physically, mentally, or emotionally as well. And I think it's really important, depending again on context, on where somebody's at, what they're experiencing, and how bad the burnout actually is, in terms of what techniques they may employ for themselves, or they may find works best. But I always guide my clients back to what helps you feel the best, simply because what works for someone may not work for somebody else. And one of the hardest parts that I certainly found about burnout, in significant burnout, I could not feel gratitude. I had a dear friend of mine say, "Go do what brings you joy." And it's like nothing brings me joy at this particular point because my emotional state was so low. It was like literally trying to jump from the bottom of a ladder up to the top of the ladder, but with no rungs in between. I couldn't access the emotions simply because my mind was so uh, hooked into like the fears and the anxiety and the stress at that particular time because I was physically so compromised. So I think sometimes that can be really difficult when people are, oh, just focus on gratitude. But if you can't access the state of gratitude, I would definitely recommend accessing or doing your best to find what feels like relief, because relief ultimately will end up in gratitude. However, that may be finding it difficult to access gratitude. I think the other really important things to be aware of, and something that's not necessarily spoken about a lot, is the difference between healing and regulating the nervous system. And healing the nervous system really takes time, and it
Yeah.
takes capacity to be able to process what has been stored in the nervous system as a survival response, perhaps maybe for 20, 30, 40, 50 years of our life. And that takes like the emotional processing, which we also may struggle with if we're very, very low in energy and the body has dropped into complete overwhelm in the freeze state. Often they'll feel quite numb and um, not able to experience their emotions at that particular point because the body's in complete conservation mode. So, understanding the difference between healing and regulating the nervous system, because often people can jump in at particular times with methods such as breathing, which I love as a method for regulating the nervous system. However, sometimes that actually blocks us from processing the deeper or the bigger emotions that actually need to be released from the nervous system as a whole as well. So, some of my favorite techniques are EFT tapping. I think that that's a brilliant way. Certainly from my background as a kinesiologist, understanding
Mhm.
that that's actually helping to not only process the emotions, but it's releasing that survival energy or survival stress from the nervous system. Because essentially, that when that there's all that stored nervous energy or survival energy within the nervous system, it's essentially like keeping the accelerator jammed on in the car. It's keeping the body in that revved up state. Whereas when we're dispersing that, when we're processing that, it allows the body to take the foot off the accelerator and to come back into that parasympathetic rest mode. And a lot of people will know whether that's happening for them or not simply by their inability to be able to sleep. It's like laying there and
Yeah.
the mind is just racing
Yeah.
and you can't stop the thoughts. And you feel this really frenetic energy that you've got to be doing 101 different things and your energy feels very scattered and very ungrounded. That's when we're very much in that survival mode and when the accelerator's jammed on. So sometimes by actually just dropping in and checking in, and I like to place my hand on my heart and my belly and just close my eyes for 5 minutes and just ask myself, "How am I actually really feeling?" And sometimes doing a lot of deeper inner work is actually the very key thing to help people step out of burnout or to move through and heal from burnout. Because along with that survival energy, we've generally got a lot of those thoughts like, "I've got too much to do. I can't stop. I've got to keep going. Everybody's depending on me." And often there is I've noticed there's definitely been an over responsibility for a lot of people that they've taken on at a very young age of who they needed to be and how they needed to be in the world in order to be loved and accepted. So I think when deciding the key things, I think addressing the four pillars of holistic health, which is our physical body. So balancing blood sugar is a massive part of healing burnout because often people are very hypoglycemic, craving sugar, craving high fat foods, trying to get that quick hit of energy. Um, so reducing inflammation in the body as well as balancing blood sugar is really, really important. And then looking at what are the stored emotions, what are the experiences that we've had in the past that need to be healed, along with the belief systems that were attached to those events or experiences. And then also that spiritual connection. How do I feel? What is my connection to me personally? Getting back in connection with what I call the heart, the soul. I know lots of people have different beliefs around that, so it's whatever works for you. But that larger part of you that is has the wisdom, that has the intuition, as much as you can, trying to get back into reconnection. And sometimes, just spending time in nature can be a great way of reconnecting and regrounding our energy as well. But I think for people, if they are experiencing or any listeners experiencing burnout, um, is really seeing what works for you currently and what works for you now may also shift and change over time during your healing as well. And I know even just movement, I'd completed literally a 42K walking marathon 2 weeks before I went through burnout in 6 hours. And when I went through burnout, like literally 2 weeks later, I could barely walk 10 minutes without just being completely exhausted. So, for me to be out exercising it, that was just like I had to back off on all of that for the first month, but the second month, it was like, "Okay, I feel like I can kind of move my body and get outside a little bit more," so that was more helpful. But I do go through and share, like, a lot of tools and strategies in my Thrive book as well, which is why I wrote the book, because I thought, "Oh my goodness, this is just awful," and, for people going through it, having a step-by-step guide and different ideas of things that they could try and apply, could be very helpful for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so, so empowering. So, and of course, if our listeners would wish to check out your book, how they can do that and connect with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Linktree is the best way to find me. So, Linktree/Sal Holden. And I've got a lot of resources on there as well. So, a lot of free downloads. There's your healing, healing burnout guide, as well as a sleep guide on there. They're both free downloads and resources. And my book can be found on Amazon and Audible as well. So if you want to just go direct to those sites and grab it from there, that's totally okay. Otherwise, you can grab it from the link on my link tree.
Lovely. We'll have the details in the show notes then. Sal, once again, such an enlightening conversation. So much relatable, simple, yet, with all the scientific insights. I think and your journey, which is a testament to the power of mindset in transforming our lives. You have really come a long way. And I think our readers can take a lot of practical takeaways to apply, to execute in their own lives. So thank you so much for what you are doing for all of us.
And thank you so much, Sana. I really appreciate just such a beautiful conversation and also having me on here today.
And to all of our listeners, if today's conversation connected with you, it did definitely with me. So please subscribe, share, and leave a review. You can refer to the show notes to connect with Sal and check out her book. And yeah, if you are feeling burnt out, or maybe you are on the verge, or maybe any of your loved one is going through this, remember, you or your friend have the power to shift their mindset and create the life you desire. So, thank you to all for tuning into Mind Over Matter. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself and others as well. Thank you.